Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of the Design Critique. Today I'm doing a little bit of a follow-up to the previous video in anticipation of Spider-Man 2. We're going to be talking about the suits in Miles Morales this time, because last time we obviously did the remastered ones, the ones from the core game. So today we're going to be doing Miles Morales, and of course there isn't quite as many suits, so this is maybe going to be a shorter one, but I'm also going to maybe be going into a slight bit more detail on them. And there's a lot more original suits in this because obviously Miles hasn't been around for as long, so there are a lot more little things to go over here, because obviously a lot of the suits in the remastered game were mostly they're mostly kind of as good a translation as you can get of a lot of classic suits, a lot of very famous ones, but with Miles there aren't many of those because Miles has only been around since what, like 2013. So yeah, I'm probably wrong on that. I don't know if that year is correct, but it felt correct. But anyways, that's enough rambling intro. I will roll the actual intro, and then we will actually start getting into things. God, I said actually a lot there. Anyways.
Let's go.
Okay, so this is an example of, well, we're starting. But, yeah, so realistically speaking, with a lot of these suits, as I was saying in the intro, we're going to be covering a lot of suits which are new. But this is maybe kind of not that. This is a suit which is technically speaking new, but it is obviously inspired by the kind of hoodie look that, yeah, the kind of jacket and hoodie that Miles has in that brief part of Into the Spider-Verse. I prefer that version to this. If you have not watched one of these videos before, they are very unstructured and rambly, and I do rank these things, sort of. I give them a number score, but bear in mind the number, I came up with it off the top of my head, and I didn't rehearse this or anything like that, so it's completely random and doesn't really matter. I'm also not really ranking this off of the previous games that I've covered. I'm not really ranking this against the previous game. I'm kind of mostly ranking it within itself. So that said, I am going to compare these a little bit to suits from the previous game because there is a direct comparison this time. But yeah, so this suit, which is just called the Sportswear Suit, is, yeah, just kind of the hoodie and jacket suit from Into the Spider-Verse, but kind of a little less interesting to me. They've obviously lent very much into the Spider-Man color palette, the blue jacket, red hoodie, because otherwise there isn't really any blue in there, but it's not really Miles' color palette. Also these shoes, I want you to make note of them because they will reappear multiple times. It was something which I noticed as I was going, or as I was assembling these images. But yeah, I think this is fun. I like the idea of it, but I do wish that there was a version of this which had the black mask, because I think that would have been fun. But I'm assuming, based on their suit style system from the new game, that there probably will be a version of that for the new game. But yeah, I think this is okay. I think it's a decent enough version of this, but I obviously prefer the Spider-Verse version. So I would say maybe this is like a 6. 6 out of 10 feels appropriate. It feels, yeah, it feels safe enough giving it a 6. I think it's a good suit and it's a nice starter. But yeah, that is kind of more or less all I really have to say about this. I don't feel great about the fingerless gloves here all that much, because we've established that any Spider-Man doesn't need to have their fingers out in order to use their wall crawling. So this is the thing, I feel like having the fingers out is maybe unnecessary. But yeah, what else have we got? Now we've got the Great Responsibility Suit. I do not like this. I understand that it's supposed to look kind of awkward and it's supposed to give you like this, oh, this is not quite right. He's still got the same shoes. And yeah, these gloves are quite awkward. It doesn't fit him right. Again, the idea is very obvious here. There's thematic purpose to the fact that it, literally speaking, doesn't fit him, but thematically speaking, it also doesn't fit him. Just being another Spider-Man doesn't physically fit Miles in the same way that it doesn't thematically fit him. So I understand and I like that idea, but I also think this doesn't look great. I especially don't like how it bunches around his neck. I really like the mask, though. I do actually like the mask. I like the big eyes. I think it obviously makes it pretty obvious the difference in age between Peter and Miles, in that Peter obviously has the smaller lenses and Miles has bigger ones. Well, for here at least. It's supposed to kind of, I suppose, show off that kind of more innocent-looking Spider-Man, and I think that's neat. But I think stuff like these knee pads, I really think they could have done without the knee pads. I think he's also got elbow pads, but I think they definitely could have done without those. I think it's funny to me that this is the first suit you get that at this point in the game they let you switch suits. And I don't think anybody playing this game stuck with this suit, because I don't think it's very good. I think it's probably about a 4. Again, it has great thematic purpose, which is why it's as high as it is. I would probably be giving it lower if it had none of that. But yeah, I'd say this is about a 4. It doesn't have the right... It just doesn't kind of look great. That's the big problem with it, is it doesn't look great. Even though it has, again, as I say, it has a really good thematic purpose. I don't think it works quite that well in terms of actually being a visually interesting suit, because it's kind of just a less interesting Spider-Man costume. That's all it is. It's just less interesting than the kind of default Spider-Man. There's nothing really all that Miles about it, which again is the point. But yeah, I feel comfortable giving this a 4. There are elements which I like. I like the lenses. I didn't realize I could zoom in this much to this one. I even kind of like the material here on some of this kind of like glossy material. You can see these little lines and the textures and everything in it. But I just don't like how these gloves are very ill-fitting. Again, the whole suit is ill-fitting. The neck part doesn't fit right. All this stuff. These knee pads look weird. They don't really gel with a lot of the rest of the coloring either here. And yeah, he's got the same shoes as before. But yeah, that feels like a 4 to me. Now what do we got? We got the homemade suit. Or yeah, Miles's homemade suit. Which I do not like at all. So with this one, you can obviously... This is an original suit. I don't think this comes from anywhere. I don't think so. I think this is an original suit. But yeah, they've tried to basically do that MCU prototype suit, but for Miles. And I think it looks bad. So, things that I like. I like the gloves. I do actually like the gloves. I think they look kind of cool. I don't like this mask. It looked kind of daft. I think that the kind of... It's not a hoodie. I was about to say hoodie, but it's actually not a hoodie. The jumper here. It feels like it should be a hoodie, right? But there's no hood. Well, none that I can see anyways. This is obviously supposed to be like a spider, but it doesn't really look like a spider. This kind of shape here, it's just kind of like a design. Again, it's supposed to be like, oh, it's a normal design that you'd see on just an average kind of piece of clothing. You wouldn't... It's not specifically supposed to be like a Spider-Man design, but also it's a Spider-Man costume. The shoes are a nice touch. I like the shoes. Although they don't really jive with a lot of the color palette. If you gave the same shoes but maybe made them like a dark brown or something, or like a black, that might fit the color palette a little bit better, because as it stands they really don't jive with what's going on here. The red stripe on the tracksuit trousers, yeah, it's fine. The white doesn't fit here either. I really don't like this. I'm gonna give this like a 3. Actually, no, this is a 2. I really don't like this. I dislike this most than... I dislike this more than most of the costumes in the previous game. I dislike this more than a lot of those other costumes. I don't like this one very much. I would say this is a 2. I strongly dislike this. Because, yeah, like, again, there's not really much about this which screams Spider-Man to me. The goggles I don't really like. The mask has, like, all these little weird breathy holes here, and it's got all this little bits of design and everything, and it's got a zipper on it. Well, actually, no, that's part of the jumper. But, oh, this is confusing looking. See, they've done a weird thing here of where they've kind of not quite gone for pure clothes. They've also gone for, we're stretching the clothes thing a little bit with the fact that this jumper, which has all these different colors going on in it, also goes up into this neck piece, which happens to be the exact same color as the mask, which just doesn't blend to me. That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, no, this is very hodgepodgey, and I understand that that is the purpose of it, but I just don't think it works as a Spider-Man costume. It doesn't look like a Spider-Man costume, and here, because it doesn't really strike me as that being the point, it just feels like it's not really working in the same way that some of these other ones do. It doesn't work in the same way that the Great Responsibility Suit does. The Great Responsibility Suit has a little bit more to it. It has a little bit more thematic purpose. I feel like it has a little bit more going on. This suit is very basic and messy. Yeah, I don't like this one very much. It's a 2. It's a 2. I don't want to look at it anymore. Now we've got the tracksuit. I don't know why it's called that. I don't know if this comes from something. This one might actually come from something. There was only 1 or 2 of these that I read up on to see if they actually came from something. But this one I think is pretty cool. I like that the inside of the eyes have this little black rim around them. I like that the red webbing only goes in certain parts of the suit, and that you've got this kind of thinner inlaid webbing material that goes around the rest of it. Because, again, I don't like the indented webs. I talked about this in the previous one. I don't really like the indented webs, but I think they work here. I think they work well enough here. I think there's a lot of nice textures going on with this, but there's maybe a few too many of them. He's got this kind of little ninja toe thing going on here, which I don't know about. I think these wrist pieces are a little bulky, maybe. I wouldn't necessarily go for that. And there's maybe too many tones of red here, because the wrist pieces are a different tone of red than the entire rest of him. I would have just made that the same tone. That feels weird to have it be a completely different tone. Because, again, there's only one other tone, and it's this kind of sweet red that goes throughout the rest of it, but this is a kind of a dull red. Yeah, I don't know about that. I wouldn't normally be too keen on the white, but the white it's a big part of the design, and it's the thing that kind of sets this costume apart from a lot of the rest of them, because this suit very much it's mostly kind of just the classic Miles costume, but with a little bit more going on. The spider's a different shape. It's Big Spider. I like Big Spider on the Spider-Man costume. I think it works here. I like how it goes down along the arm. I think that's a cool piece of design. I just don't like these wrist pieces very much. The finger pieces are a little bit better, though. I like the finger pieces more than the wrist pieces. I think this looks kind of cool. And I do like the white. I think it's a neat design element. I think a lot of this is actually pretty cool. I like this one well enough. Yeah, I think this one's like an 8. I think this one's pretty cool. I like this quite a bit. Yeah, I do like this. I like this quite a bit, actually. Yeah, there's maybe a few too many textures going on here, because this is the thing with a lot of games of where you get this kind of thing of where they're like, well, we can put all these different textures on there, so why not? And then you just get this kind of thing of where there's this texture here along this kind of dotted texture along the webbing, but then there's no kind of texture along the mask. It's kind of like a rubbery material looking thing, maybe. And then you've got a different kind of dotted material on the white, and then you've got this slightly different color of white, which has a more kind of like long hexagon shape. And then there's also a texture on the dull red, which is this kind of lined texture sort of thing. Then you've got more of this kind of rubbery material here, and then a different texture yet again, this kind of like exercise gear kind of rounded dotted material going along the outside of the hand. And yeah, there's maybe a little too many textures, a few too many textures going on here. And he's also got a texture on his eyes. But yeah, I'd say that this is, yeah, I feel like this is an 8. This is a pretty good one. I do actually like this one quite a bit. It's a cool costume. I think it's interesting looking. Yeah, I like that one well enough. It's cool. It's cool. I'm conscious that I'm actually getting through these quite quickly. I'm already 4 suits in. But yeah, there's not really many in this game. I think there's only like 20 or something like that. But yeah, now what do we got? Okay, now we got the animated suit, which looks like it's in a different animated style than the animated costume or the vintage suit from the previous game. I don't know how much I like this. It's got this kind of like 3D anime look to it, with a lot of this kind of harsh cell shading. But it doesn't look quite right to me. It's something about the eyes. The eyes are like a weird shape. Like, I think I can zoom in. Yeah, I can zoom in. The eyes are like a weird shape, and obviously there's like these little black lines that go around the spider and stuff like this. I think there's probably supposed to be like a black outline around this, but it's not here because of the way this has been cropped, this image. So you're getting these kind of like jagged edges. I think there's supposed to be a black line around this, black outline. But I'm feeling kind of neutral on this. I'm feeling like it's maybe a 5. I don't love it, but I always like the effort whenever they do something like this. There is a lot of effort that goes into creating a suit that has a very different visual style than the other ones. I think it's a cool idea, but sometimes it just doesn't work. Like in the previous game, there was the manga Spider-Man. I think it was the manga-verse Spider-Man, and he just looks really weird. He looks like he's in a different game, and it's not that the reason that it looks weird to me is that it looks like it's from a different game. It just doesn't quite look right. It doesn't gel in any way, I think, really. I think it, even if it's in a different style, I think it needs to gel a little bit more than not at all. Like here, this one does gel more, but I also feel like the colors on it are kind of dull. Like the red is kind of weird and dull. And yeah, like the black is very kind of grayish. That's a problem which I'm going to have with a lot of the suits here, is that the black isn't dark enough. Yeah, I don't really like this one all that much. I think I'm feeling like giving it a 5. I think it's like a 5 out of 10. I don't love it. I don't love it all that much. Yeah, I don't really like it. I don't really like it. It's not really speaking to me in any way. Because like proportionally, he's not got much interesting going on. Because this is obviously more animated than the vintage suit from the previous game. The vintage suit from the previous game is just a cel-shaded version of that game's classic suit. It's the same thing. It looks exactly the same. But I think the way that works better for what it is. I'm also a little bit biased because I do like that suit. But this one, I feel like they dipped a toe into slightly different proportions. Like, let's even go back to the previous suit. It does have slightly different proportions, ever so slightly. Like, his shoulders are a little bit more stooped, his body's a little thinner. Yeah, generally there's like minor little proportional differences. Like, he is a little thinner, this foot looks a bit weird. Like, he's a little bit thinner, he's a little bit kind of a bit more exaggerated with his proportions. But I don't think it's quite enough. I think, again, as I say, it feels like they dipped their toe into the kind of stylistic stuff. But it's, again, they did more than nothing, like with the vintage suit in the previous game. They don't really do anything with that suit, but I think just the cel shading looks kind of fun on it. But this one, it kind of just doesn't work for me all that much. And it doesn't help that there's a better animated suit in this game, but we'll get to that. This one's a 5. This one's a 5. I don't like it all that much. So now this is the Brooklyn Visions Academy suit, which is more or less just Miles' normal suit, but with some added accoutrement. Something worth noting is that he's still got these bloody shoes. Miles owns one pair of shoes, apart from the boots that he had in that other one, in the homemade one, the bad one. I like the jacket. I think it looks fun. And I like a lot. I do actually. I do actually like a lot of these little elements. Like I think I like the jacket. I like the headphones. I like the backpack. But something about it isn't quite coming together right for me. I don't know what it is. Because again, they've done this thing here again of where they've slipped in a little bit more of those other colors, like the blue on the jacket. They've slipped in another one of those kind of classic Spider-Man colors. But I don't know how much I like it. I don't know how much I like it. I don't know how much I have to say about this one. I'm feeling like this one's maybe a 6. It's weird that you can unlock this before you actually unlock the main Miles suit. That's a little weird to me. I think you can unlock this beforehand, because it's not like tied to story or anything like that other one is. Yeah, I'm not feeling this one. I think it's a 6. It's a little better than some of the other ones, but it's not like crazy or anything. It's still, again, they got very married to with a lot of these suits. They're quite married to the idea of, well, it's Miles' suit, but we've put clothes over it. We've put some kind of extra little flair to it here and there. And I think it works sometimes, but this is one of those instances of where I'm like, it works well enough, but it's not like crazy. It's not all that interesting, really. It's not that interesting. It's a 6. It doesn't really do much for me. Yeah, I think again, there's better versions in this same game of the clothes over the costume, and sometimes they're a little less intrusive. Like I feel like this is one of the ones where it's maybe a little too intrusive because the jacket covers quite a lot. But yeah, what else we got? Ooh. Crimson Cowl suit. This one I think comes from a cover. Like a cover of a comic. I don't know if this one's actually in a comic, so to speak. But yeah. So this is the Thriller outfit. It just kind of has that vibe to it of the kind of the Michael Jackson Thriller costume, sort of. Maybe I'm just making that connection. I don't know if that was necessarily intentional, but it definitely looks like it was intentional. Again, I didn't really read anything on these before I did this. Right, let's get into this. I really like this. It's still got a lot of textures, but they're a little bit more subtle this time. He's got these little kind of eyebrows on his mask, which I think look cool. These little jagged edges, which I didn't really notice until now, but I think they look cool. It's also got the webbed pattern on the inside of the hood. You can see it a little bit there, kind of like on the Spider-Gwen hood. Has the same element. It's got 2 tones of red, and it sticks to them fairly consistently. There's the core body red, and then there's these slightly darker accent reds. It's the same thing with the second Scarlet Spider costume, which I talked about in the previous one. Even though I don't love that suit, I think it works very well in that game. This is one of those things here, but I actually like the suit as well. Again, I like the way that the black kind of merges down into the kind of more classic Spider-Man shapes. You get that kind of belt shape, and plus it goes into this kind of covering the arm kind of sleeve thing. Maybe not too into this kind of like ribbed thing going on the inside of his arm, because it looks kind of weird and flat. Like you can see there, it looks kind of flat. Could just be the render, I'm not sure. But yeah, I like the kind of shoe shape with the bottom of the boots. I think this is a... What do I give this? I like this one a lot. Do I give it a 9? Is a 9 too high? I'm pretty sure I give it an 8 already. What are the other ones I've done? That. I gave this one an 8. I think this one's maybe better than that. I think this one's a 9. I do remember towards the end of the previous video I bumped up the advanced suit and the classic suit to 9s. I think this one's really good. Obviously, I don't think it's as good as the advanced suit or the classic suit from the previous games, but as compared to the other suits within this game, I don't know. I think this one's a 9. As compared to the other suits in this game, I think this is a 9. Because that's our rating here. We're only comparing based off of the other suits within the same game. Yeah, as I said, there's maybe a few too many textures still going on, but that's kind of something we're going to find with a lot of these suits. It's just kind of a thing they do with games now. You don't really get much simplicity going on, but I think this is a cool suit. It's quite reserved in terms of the coloring and stuff like that. It has 2 tones of red, it sticks to them, it's got the 1 tone of black, it sticks to it. Technically speaking, it's got 2 tones of black, because this is a kind of a lighter silvery kind of tone on the gloves, but the kind of core body and then into the sleeves has this kind of darker black. I think this is cool as hell. This is a 9. So now we got the S.T.R.I.K. suit, which is like a kind of a Kamen Rider thing going on. I don't know anything about Kamen Rider, I just know that this kind of looks like it. Right. Well, I can't zoom in that much. This is not a high quality image. These big gauntlets I don't like. I don't like big gauntlets on Spider-Man. The big boots also I don't like very much. Collar's kind of cool. And this like jawline thing going on is kind of cool. It's a little over-designed though. It's funny that it feels like here, in kind of place of it, because again, there's still these little textures here and there, but it feels like they were like, oh well, this is kind of armory, so we can't go too far with the textures, so let's just just make it really complicated, because it's still got all this design on it, even though it's not got all these textures, because it's kind of maybe a metallic texture. I don't know. Some of this is hard to read what kind of texture it's supposed to be, but yeah. I'm not feeling it all that much. I'm feeling... like a 6. Maybe a 6 feels appropriate for this. 6 feels appropriate. I think it's a 6. I think... Ooh, excuse me. I think for what they're going for, they kind of do achieve what they want here, but it's just so messy. Because what they want is obviously they want to have this kind of Kamen Rider thing going on, I think. The narrow eyes I'm not too into. And his webs are maybe a little too raised. The gold trim, again, I just don't associate gold with Spider-Man ever. Gold on the gauntlets. The gauntlets I really don't like. I think the gauntlets are the biggest part I don't like about this. The gauntlets and the boots. The boots are kind of weird and bulky as well. I don't like really either of those elements all that much. Yeah, I don't really like either of those elements too much. Yeah, I think it's a 6. I think it's a 6. I feel comfortable with that. I do like this chin piece though. I think that's a kind of a neat feature which kind of gives his head a bit of a more interesting shape. Again, there's little elements I do like to it. I like the spider. I think the spider looks cool. I strongly dislike the gauntlets. I think this jaw piece and the collar are cool, but maybe the webs are a little too raised. If I'm gonna start picking it apart, a lot of individual elements I don't actually like all that much, but I think the way it comes together, they kind of get what they want out of it, which is, I suppose, that kind of Kamen Rider thing. Yeah, 6, I think. Right, so this is the end suit, which is, again, another one of these suits where it's a Spider-Man costume, but clothes. There's a weird military thing going on with his bottom half here. So, let's zoom in. So you've got this kind of urban camo trousers, and then these boots, which aren't military boots, but look kind of military-ish because of how tall they are, and this kind of like round and strappy kind of thing going on. But then up here, it's got the kind of more normal clothes look. Even the kind of core body piece looks like a t-shirt, or it looks like a kind of like exercise shirt sort of thing, but with a mask. I like these eye shapes. I think the eye shapes are interesting. I like the hoodie. I think the hoodie looks cool. I like this. I like some of this kind of design here. It looks cool. Gloves are alright. Just don't know how I feel about this kind of bottom half area here. I think these trousers don't really jive with it. Yeah, I don't think these trousers really kind of gel well with a lot of this. I might have even said you just don't include the trousers or the boots. You just have it be the hoodie, and the rest of it is kind of just a Spider-Man costume underneath. Yeah. I'm not sure how I feel about a lot of this. I'm not sure how I feel about a lot of this. Because there's elements of it which I'm like, okay, yeah. But I also don't love how it comes together. I like the hoodie, I kind of like the eyes and the kind of core kind of body piece, but I don't like the trousers, don't like the boots. I don't like how it kind of all meshes. I like maybe half of it, so maybe a 5. Oh, it's a 6. I like it about as much as the Kamen Rider one. I don't dislike it. I suppose I haven't gone over in this the kind of way I divide things up. I suppose if you've seen the previous video, I will have mentioned it there. But just to quickly go over how I divide up my ratings. 1 to 3 is bad. 4 to 6 is okay, with 4 being the lower side of with 4 being below average, 5 being perfectly average. I don't feel any way about it really, and then 6 being I like it a little bit more than average. Then 7 to 9 being it's pretty good, and then 10 obviously being it's the best thing. I feel really strongly that I really like it, and then a 1 or a 0 being it barely even counts. It barely even works for what it is. It doesn't execute on what it's trying to do. It doesn't work in any way. But yeah, I'm rarely going to be giving out 0s and 10s. This one feels like a 6. I feel like I like it about as much as the Kamen Rider one, which is to say I don't love it, I don't dislike it. Again, there's bits of it which I think are kind of cool. I think the hoodie's kind of cool. I think a lot of the kind of... I think the mask is cool looking. But I just don't like most of that lower half. So I think, yeah, about a 6, maybe. 6. 6, yeah, 6. 6 feels appropriate. Now what do we got? Now we got one that I do actually like. We've got Miles Morales 2099. Again, it's funny how with Miles, they really gave him a lot of hoods. They gave him a lot of hoods with a lot of these costumes that they picked. Again, I'm not sure if there is a Miles Morales 2099. I've never seen one. I couldn't say. Okay, now let's start getting into this. There's maybe a few too many colors going on, which is consistently a problem with a lot of futuristic Spider-Man designs. So, so we got this white, we've got this dark blue, we've got a light blue, and then we've got the red. The red is actually consistent. It seems like there's only really the one tone of red, more or less. And it's a pretty consistent, pretty bright tone of red. I like that. The dark blue, I don't think we need this light blue as well. I think the light blue is fine to just be the eyes. I don't think I don't think we need this light blue on top of the glowing eyes. I don't think it adds enough. It just gives him this kind of Pepsi colors for some reason. This is Pepsi Spider-Man. Yeah, that is an odd observation that feels actually kind of accurate now that I think about it. You've got the kind of the toothpaste color scheme going on. Toothpaste / Pepsi color scheme going on. The kind of the particular tones of red, white, and blue, and this dark blue as well. Yeah, I just don't like that light blue. I think we don't need the light blue on top of the white and the dark blue. The silver on the wrist pieces works well enough. I like how they incorporate the arm spikes into this. I like how they incorporate those into this kind of area with the web shooter. Again, there's a lot of textures, a lot of elements here. What's strange here is they have the webs, but only on the mask, and then they give up right here. It's very strange the way they decided to do that at all, because typically speaking, if you're doing a 2099 design, he doesn't have the webs. He doesn't need them, really. And the fact, again, that he's got the normal Spider-Man eyes is actually odd. Yeah, interesting. It's an interesting choice to have this kind of normal Spider-Man mask for the most part, just with glowing eyes, and then the rest of it being this kind of more 2099 look. I think this one is feeling like a 7. I like it. I do like it. I like the shoe look. That's a nice design. I like this kind of the little red spikes that kind of come around the back of his knee. I think these knuckle pieces should be white, and you could maybe get rid of a lot of this light blue, because I think the light blue is too much. I think the light blue is too much, because you've already got two different tones of blue here. You've got the kind of the darker blue, which has this kind of different texture on it, and this sheen which goes along the hood. And there's a slightly different texture going on here. Then you got a lighter blue. Jesus, there are actually more tones of blue, because there's this kind of little black trim that comes through everything. There's a lot of tones going on here. It's a bit messy whenever you start analysing it like that, I think. I think it is a 7. I think I feel kind of confident in the 7 rating here. Yeah, it's decent. I don't dislike it. I like it a little more than some of the last ones, but it's not amazing. They really like their hoods. I like the glowing eyes. I do actually like that. I like this kind of wrist piece that has the spikes coming off of it. I like that well enough. I like the piece on the knee pits. Weird thing. I like the shoe kind of look that he's got going on with the kind of hard dark soles. But it really doesn't need that extra tone of blue, because even if like you lean out and you look at it like this, you can't see that light blue really at all. It's so subtle that you can't really see it. The only place that you can really see it is on his hands and on his shoes. A lot of these bits on the spider and on the body, they just don't stick out in any way. They don't really stick out enough. They don't really mesh. Not even that they don't mesh, but that they don't really kind of come together in an interesting way with those little bits of blue. The white, again, I mean, whenever you're out like this, you can't really see the white much either. But I feel like it adds a little more than the blue, and I think if it was just white and it didn't have this extra light blue tone, I think that would be enough. Just in having the white. I don't think you need that light blue tone. I don't think you need all these little blue tones that are on him, these dark blue tones. I don't think you need all that. I think you just need one consistent dark blue and a white and the red. And you just kind of stick to those. Because his red tone is the same more or less throughout the entire thing. Like even the hood has the same kind of thing going on. The shoes are the same thing as the gloves, which is the same thing as the stripe, which is the same thing as the spider. So it all kind of comes together nicely with the red. And the red stands out fairly well. But the dark blue actually does look dark enough to be black, which I like. Because the 2099 suit, it's not supposed to be blue, it's supposed to be black, but with the way that light hits it, it's supposed to look bluer. With this one, I feel like they could have done without a lot of these tones. You've got the blue eyes already. You don't need this light blue tone. You don't need all these different dark blue tones. I think it just contributes to making it quite messy looking. But overall, I think it's a 7. Yeah, it's a 7. I feel like, yeah, that's about right, more or less. Okay, so now we got the end of the Spider-Verse suit. Now, I feel like, on the one hand, it's an animated suit. He's got slightly different proportions, so on and so forth. His height is even different. He's shorter than he normally is, if memory serves. His proportions are very different. He's very skinny. But also, this looks exactly the same as he does in the film. There's very little of a discrepancy. If you put this in front of me and said, hey, this is I mean, obviously, with a background or something like that, you put like anything of this costume in the game, and just said, hey, this is a still from one of the Spider-Verse films, I'd say, okay, I believe you. This is a perfect, more or less, a perfect rendering of how he looks in the film. The way that the light kind of hits the model, and the fact that he's got this blue kind of rim light going on, and then this white rim light on the other side, and how, obviously, in the context of the film, the suit is homemade, and it's got this kind of the silvery kind of way the light is hitting the webbing. Looks really cool. And then, on top of the fact that this looks exactly the same as it does in the film, you put on top of that the fact that they, in making this suit, they added the whole thing of changing. There's that one suit mod which changes how Miles animates. It changes it so that he animates I forget the term specifically. He animates in quarters, in fourths? I don't remember exactly how it is, but he animates slower than the rest of the game, which you don't immediately realize just quite how difficult that actually is to do. To have a way of making a character in the game animate at a different frame rate. It's crazy. It's crazy that they managed to do it. It's really impressive. And I think for all the effort that went into it, I think it's hard to give this anything other than a 10. It's a 10. It does everything. It does everything it has to. And more. All it needs to be is this image you see before you. A really, really good, almost one-to-one recreation. I can't see anything that makes it not one-to-one, but that doesn't mean it's not got anything. Like, I'm assuming there's maybe something wrong with it somewhere. But it's an almost, again, for all intents and purposes, it is a one-to-one recreation of how Miles looks into the Spider-Verse. It is pretty much exact. But then on top of that, they went above and beyond, and they added the way that he animates as a suit mod. Which, of course, you can apply to any other suit, but it's made for this one, and it looks best with this one, because with this one, it looks like the movie. It is perfect. It's perfect. It's a 10 out of 10. It is perfect. There's nothing wrong with it at all. Okay. So now we've just got, I think, yeah, this one is called the Classic Suit. This is just Miles' normal suit. So, yeah, there's a few, okay, I can't zoom in that much. I like this suit, but he's got a lot of lines, a lot of textures, a lot of lines, a lot of textures, a lot of just these little pieces which don't seem to do anything, which gives me a certain MCU-ish kind of quality to it, or there's just bits on there, like this little kind of triangular knee piece here, or these little lines that come down the waist, or all these different textures on him. This kind of like ribbed texture which goes along his arms and the front of his legs. And I think to myself, I'm not too sure about that in certain elements. Also, it's got this kind of like, the black here isn't that dark. Like whenever, I can't really zoom in all that much. But like you've got this on all the rib stuff, like his core body kind of texture. I don't know if it's just that texture or the way that the light hits it or something, but it makes it look like quite light. Like even like along the whole top piece, it looks quite light. The black is quite a light color. And it doesn't help as well. You've got these slightly darker pieces like underneath the kind of shoulder piece here, which just kind of only emphasize the fact that the core color isn't black. I don't really like some of those elements. I think it should just be pure black on those elements. Maybe put a texture on it, that's fine. But it should be black. It shouldn't be this kind of weird grayish color that it's got going on it. I don't know, I'm not too into the kind of some of the elements of this and the way they come together. Regardless, I'm still going to give it an 8 because it's a really good render. It's a really good rendering of Miles' costume. It looks really cool. Like again, if this is how Miles looked in a movie, I would be very satisfied with it. I would think, okay, that's a pretty cool version of this costume. This is a good version of it. This looks very realistic in a sense of what I mean there of how it looks like it would in a movie. That's what I mean whenever I say it looks realistic. But it's kind of that as well that stops me from giving it higher praise. I think it's a cool costume. I think Miles' costume is very cool. But I am not super into how it looks in this game with all these textures and all these little kind of like this kind of belt thing that he's got going on here, and these knee pieces and this kind of like back of the hand kind of like maybe armoring. It feels like they do this kind of with this like darker black. It's almost what they do with Peter's costume in the previous game, of where with the white it's like that here with the darker black, but it just kind of doesn't work for me in the same way. Maybe it's as well that Miles hasn't been around for long enough for them to figure out exactly how they want to redesign him, or that they don't know exactly what they want to do with him, or stuff like this. But I don't know. I think it's an 8. It's still very good, but yeah, it's not excellent. It's not exactly the best in the world. But yeah, what else we got? We got the same thing, but yellow instead of red. I think his black is slightly different as well. Yeah, it's less shiny. It's a lot duller. So this is the Uptown Pride suit, the Uptown Girl suit. Yeah, I can zoom in here and you can see some more of these textures. And here, the weird thing here is that the black is much more uniform, even though it's consistently pretty just dark gray. It's got this kind of bluish quality to it. I didn't realize that there's this kind of cross-hatched, kind of padded, quilted look to some of it here. You can like slightly see it with this kind of like sideways diamonds that go around everything. Same thing, but I like gold less. It's got this kind of like Deus Ex kind of triangles kind of pattern on the gold, like like Deus Ex. The inside of the eyes has a black trim to it, which maybe makes these have a bit more depth to them, the eyes. I don't know. It mostly does the same thing, but with different colors and slightly different texturing. It's a 7. I don't like the gold as much. The gold isn't a very nice color here. I don't think it gels quite well. I don't think black and gold is a Spider-Man color palette. Red and black, it feels like Spider-Man to me, but black and gold? No, not really, no. Now we've got the winter suit. This is another one of these suits, which is Miles' costume, but with some clothes on it. However, I like this more than most of them. I think it's just really neat. I think it's fun because obviously it leans into the kind of Christmas setting of the game, the winter setting of the game. and the kind of, yeah, I like how the leg warmers and the scarf and the hat and all this stuff. I like how it all kind of works. I think it's kind of fun. I think it's just kind of a bit of fun. I give this one an 8 as well. I don't feel the need to justify it all that much, but I like the ear protectors and stuff like that. It's all kind of fun. The earmuffs, all this. It's just kind of fun to me, and I don't know. It all works in an interesting way, I think. This is a very low res image. Yeah, I just think it's kind of fun. Why does it look like this image is the default suit, but then it's got the clothes like photoshopped onto it? Something about the way that this shadow sits here just doesn't look right. Like the way that the light is hitting it just doesn't look right. I don't know. Maybe that is what's happened here, that someone's just... This is the image that was here for some reason? Is this? I don't know. Weird image aside, it's still an 8, I think. I think it's a fun one. I enjoy this. I enjoy this quite a bit. Because it's just a bit of fun. I like the red hat. I think I think it all works in a nice little way. Because it kind of comes into the kind of, the lighter tone and all this stuff. And with some of those stuff. I like it. I think it's an 8. Right. Now we've got Miles Morales 2020. Otherwise known as the Daft Punk suit. I'm of two minds on this. On the one hand, it is very complicated. There is a lot going on with this jacket. I don't like the S. I think it's funny that they have that one S that everyone draws. I think it's funny. But also, I don't like it. I think there's a lot going on with this. It's very complicated. But on the other hand, Daft Punk is cool. Daft Punk is cool. The shoes are cool. The kind of the design of the body of like these kind of like leg pieces and how it comes into, even though it has all these different tones, I think the gloves are cool. With the way it comes into the kind of classic Spider-Man finger things, I think that's cool. It's got this very breathable material, I think, which is funny. He's got the is it a Walkman? Looks like a Walkman. I think the jacket is really cool looking. I think it's a really cool looking jacket. I would have foregone the gold. Personally, I would have foregone the gold. I wouldn't have put that trim there at all. I think the helmet is really cool. I like these little kind of, the way this kind of divots in here to make this kind of face plate that conforms to a kind of like a cheekbone shape. I like how that looks with these little bits of like almost this kind of gas masking material. I like the projected spider eyes. It's cool, and the way that these are kind of like headphones that come down into the music player, whether that be a Walkman or what have you. I mean, it's a Sony game, so very well could be a Walkman. However, I'm not too keen on the projected chest. I maybe don't know about the screen here as much. I like the screen on the helmet, but I don't know as much about the screen on the chest. I appreciate that both of these are light sources in-game, because you can see it here, there's casting light on his chest, and the chest piece here is casting light on his neck. I think that is cool. It's casting light down here onto this cable and down onto the rest of him. I think it's really cool. If memory serves, there is like light, like smoke or something, I think, that comes out of the helmet. Like a light kind of misty thing, because you can see it like with the way that the light hits most of his body down here. It's got this kind of like misty pattern to it. So I think there is like a mist or a little smoke breath kind of thing that comes out of the mask. I think this one's also an 8. I think it's a little... I maybe feel like it's a bit of a guilty pleasure, because it's cool, but it's a bit overcomplicated. It's a bit overcomplicated. It's got some elements which I'm not huge on, but yeah, no, it's an 8. It's an 8. It's cool. It's damn cool. This is a cool costume. Maybe not necessarily the one that I would roll with. I would probably roll with the Crimson Cowl one, because that one to me is a little cooler. But yeah, this is real cool. This is a real cool costume. I think it's still, it's an 8. Maybe an 8.5. 8.5. This one's an 8.5. It's a step above some of those other ones. It's damn cool. Yeah. See, the 2020 thing is a question which I have in my mind of where I'm like, how does that relate to Daft Punk? I don't know. Because I know that Marvel 2020 was in like the 90s, I think. There was like a... in like the 80s or 90s, that was like a different universe from 2099. But it was after 2099 existed, I think, they did the 2020 series, which was a different thing, which was kind of like a step between. They had a different Iron Man. I remember Iron Man 2020 because he was weird looking. But yeah, I remember that there was another Iron Man. He looked kind of weird. But I don't think there was a Spider-Man 2020 at all. But I appreciate that they did this design. I think that this is a new design. I don't know that this is from anything specifically. Might be from a cover. I think a lot of the Miles costumes come from covers. But yeah, what do we got next? Ooh. It's funny how I was talking about Deus Ex earlier on. So this is the Programmable Matter suit. I don't like this. It looks an awful lot like those kind of, like a lot of the kind of visual design in Deus Ex of where it's got this kind of like hard geometrical shapes converging into each other and forming this kind of thing. I appreciate that all the glowing bits are actually light sources. I do appreciate that as a design element. I don't know why his eyes aren't just like a fully glowing thing as a whole, because these kind of like flat dark pieces here, it doesn't feel like he should be able to see out of those. But I'm going to look past it. I don't really like this. I think this is a 5. It's not even that I don't like it, I just don't care about it, if you know what I mean. This is what I mean whenever I say a 5. It's because I don't feel really anything about it. It's not as bad as some of the ones that I actually don't like, but I also don't like it really at all. I don't dislike it enough to actually put it down low, but I also don't like it. So I think it's a 5. I just think all these like geometrical shapes and all this lighting stuff going on, it's just a little much. Yeah, this kind of like weird kind of, not even Tron-y stuff, but yeah, just Deus Ex. It very much has that kind of design sense of the modern Deus Ex games, which is just a weird kind of thing of where like there's so many lines and things and pieces going on in this chest piece down into the kind of core body, and it's not like webs, it's just bits and pieces that have bits and pieces within them, and it has all these little textures on it because all the geometrical shapes on that are just forming it as a whole aren't enough. You need to be able to zoom in and see more geometrical shapes. The sideways long diamond that you always get, or no, that's like a long hexagon, which is the same texture that you get on all like the movie suits and stuff like that. It's yeah, I don't like it. It's a 5. Not even that I don't like it, I just don't care. I don't care about it. It's a 5. What do we got? Okay, this is the Purple Rain suit, which, fun name aside, it's just a Prowler suit. In terms of like the Prowler but translated to Spider-Man, I think this is a cool way of doing it. I like the way that he still has the webs, but they're indented. They're maybe a little bit more in tune with a Prowler design sense. And I like how they come into the spider shape, much like they do with the normal costume. With Miles' normal costume. I think these gauntlets are pretty cool looking. I think the kind of like this kind of like ribbed inner body piece is cool. I think the belt looks cool. I think the spider looks really cool. I think the shoes are kind of cool looking, even though they're boots, or are they trainers? I can't tell which they actually are, because this knee piece here feels like it's like the start of a big boot, but it's not. Maybe? I can't tell. That's a kind of a confusing element. But I think they look cool otherwise. There is these weird different, because there's obviously the purple, and then there's this dark grey tone here, which is just pretty much around the crotch. I'm not quite sure why it's there. It's kind of in the boot areas as well, but I think it's on the inside of the hand, maybe. But it's on the crotch, and I'm not quite sure why it's exclusively there. I think the spider alone is kind of carrying this for me. I like this within reason. I think I didn't talk about his eyes, but I think the eyes look cool. They're really sharp, geometrical eyes, just the triangle eyes. I like as like almost like a kind of, yeah, of a prowler design element. And it's obviously, yeah, it's very much like Batman and stuff like that. You get these kind of like triangle eyes. I like the triangle eyes. But with Prowler as well, you get those kind of triangle eyes, but it's blended more into like a Spider-Man eye shape. Sort of, with the webs and stuff like that. I think it's cool. I think this one's an 8. I'm giving out a lot of 8s now. But I think, again, like, the good ones in these games are really good, but I don't know if they're good enough to be great. Like, this one's good, but it's not great. It's interesting, and it is really good. That's why I'm giving it an 8. But it's not, like, blowing my mind. None of these design elements feel like they're really inspired choices. These feel like kind of the obvious choices. If you're going to do a Spider-Man Prowler design, you'd maybe go for something like this. And that's kind of how I'm feeling about it. It's not surprising in any way. Like, the way that it looks isn't like super crazy. It kind of is just, this is Spider-Man Prowler. It's cool. It's cool enough. But it's not like mind-blowing. It's not like, whoa. I don't get that feeling from it. I don't get that kind of like, wow, kind of sensation from it, which is why I'm giving it an 8, because it is really good, but it's not like really inspired or anything like that. It's just good. So yeah, it's an 8. It's an 8. Okay, this is the Bodega Cat costume, which unfortunately, with the way this image is, you can't see the actual central piece of it being the cat. But I'm not ranking it off of the cat. I'm ranking it off of the costume. And technically speaking, the cat has its own costume, because it's got its own little mask, and that's a 10 out of 10 on its own. But yeah, we're ranking this costume, which has some elements which I'm uncertain about. Like these bloody shoes, which, again, Miles only owns one pair of shoes, and it is these red ones, these red and black shoes. They're the only shoes he owns. See, in all of the Spider-Man costume but clothes costumes, this is one of the weirder ones, because he's actually got a different suit underneath. Like, this mask is different. He's got a different mask, which has like a weird kind of fat head and these big eyes. It's kind of weird. And this different design here, and he's got this kind of like going into the boot design on the costume, but it's like such a dull red. But this red on the fingers is really bright, and same with the eyes. The rim on the eyes is very, very bright, but the actual webbing is very dull, and all the inlays and everything are very dull. It's the same with the hoodie. The hoodie's a very dull color, and he's obviously got this like beaten up backpack thing going on. The upside down spider. Without the cat, this is like a 4. Because I don't really like much of what's going on here. He's got this kind of weird Winnie the Pooh thing going on, of where the fact that he's got shoes and a top makes the fact that he's not wearing trousers seem kind of weird to me. I mean, Winnie the Pooh does not have the shoes, but here Spider-Man has shoes, and that is only further making me question some of these elements here. I think without the cat it's a 5, with the cat it's like an easy 10. Because obviously the cat has its own stuff going on, and then the fact that the special thing is that the cat does moves. It's cool. It's a cool thing to have. It's a very neat, interesting, inspired choice with the cat. I don't think that the cat's a 10. I think the cat maybe raises it up to like an 8. But if it didn't have the cat and this was just the costume, this is like a 4. This costume is not very good looking, but the fact that it has the cat brings it up quite a bit, because the cat is a cool design element. Not even that it's a cool design element, but it's an interesting and inspired choice in terms of gameplay and in terms of how it factors into the actual costume, I think is cool. It's a very interesting choice to have that. It's a very, again, it's an inspired choice. It's not something that you would immediately think, oh, Spider-Man, throw a cat on there. You wouldn't necessarily immediately think it, and I think it's just the way they do it is cool. So yeah, I'm giving this 2 different scores. Without cat, 4. With cat, 7 maybe. Maybe not an 8, but a 7. If the costume itself was already good, then it would bring it up to a 10. But the fact that the costume is not very good and looks kind of weird to me, I think is hurting this quite a lot. The costume is bringing down the score of this thing. So I think with cat it is only a 7. Maybe a 7.5. 7.5 feels a little bit better. With the cat, it's a 7.5. Without the cat, it's not great. I will say it is not great without the cat. It could definitely stand to improve even without the cat. But yeah, we're getting towards the end of our list here. So what's next? Next we've got the Spider training suit, which I do not like. It's the same way I don't really like the ESU costume from the previous game. Like, this is almost the same kind of thing, because he's got like the Visions shirt and this hoodie. Does he even have web shooters on? If he does, they're concealed inside the sleeves, which is weird. No, I'm not feeling this one. This one's like a 3. This one's like a 3. I don't like this. It's not even that I'm like, oh, it's bad. It's just, it's like, it feels like they needed something to fill another slot. And it's like, they got this. This is a thing, this is a model that existed in the DLC of the previous game. Because there is a brief moment at the end of the DLCs for the previous game where Peter's gonna train Miles, and this is the costume that Miles is wearing. Which is just his normal clothes from that game, but with a Spider-Man mask. So, yeah. It's a 3. It's a 3. It's uninteresting, design-wise. Very uninteresting to me. Yeah. Now this is the only one of these which is like actively an update suit, because this game didn't get as many suits and updates as the previous game did. The previous game got like an extra like 10 suits from updates alone, from just movies and the like all the different weird little suits they added, like Bagman and Future Foundation and all these things. But this is the only one they added, the advanced tech suit. I imagine a lot of you might not have even seen it. I'd never seen it before this. This is the first time I'm seeing this, and I'm like, oh. Why does the spider on his chest look more like a wasp? It's a little weird. Okay, I can't zoom in that much. The eyes don't look great. They slightly glow, it looks like. But this has got maybe some of those weird problems that the Bodega Cat costume has, of where this has this weird, like, dull red undertone. And then all these little textures going on. Is it armor? Is it not armor? I can't tell. It looks like armor with elements like this kind of heavy upper piece with these big shoulder pads. That looks like armor. And with how shiny and techy some of these elements are, I'm like, oh, is this armor? It's kind of like the spider armor, but for Miles. Why do these like arm pieces like flare out into like almost like a flared sleeve kind of thing? I don't really like this. It feels almost a shame that this is the last one, because I don't like this very much. It's I don't like this very much at all. I'm going to give it a 4. It's not as bad as some of the other costumes, but it's not really got any saving graces. I would say, yeah, this is a 4. This is a 4 from me. But yeah, like, yeah, it's just kind of boring. Like, for a suit which is like, oh, we're adding this after the game, is like, it's gotta kind of grab you. It's gotta be something where it's like, okay, this is cool, this is something new. That said, it is an update suit. It came in an update. It was free. So, I mean, it was free. But I'm just noticing these little lights that he's got, like, on his hips and on his, like, sides of his gauntlet and his knees and the tips of his toes. It's like, what is he, a plane? Why does he need these for landing? Like, what? Why does he have all these bloody lights? No, this is a 4. This is definitely a 4. Yeah. No, yeah, that's a 4. It's not the worst thing in the world, but it is definitely not good. Hell, you know what? It's a 3.5. It's a 3.5. I desperately do not like this. I don't normally bother giving decimal whenever we're that low on the scoring, but no, this is a 3.5. It's slightly worse than just being below average. It's not just below average. It is bad, but it is on the higher end of bad. If that makes any sense, it's on the higher end of being bad. It's almost average. It's almost just below average, but it's too bad to be just below average to me. I don't know. I don't like this at all. Yeah, so that's all the suits in Miles Morales, I think. I couldn't find any more. But, like, what are our big takeaways? This one's pretty cool. This one is perfect for various elements. This one is really cool. This is probably my personal favorite. Like, I think this suit is, like, objectively perfect. This suit's really good, even though it's kind of not the most interesting or different version of Miles' suit. This one I like for personal reasons. It's fun. This one's really cool, but it's a little over-designed. This one's a mess. This one's, again, it's not going to reinvent the wheel. It's what you expect from this suit. Whenever someone tells you, hey, this is Prowler Spider-Man, this is a general idea of what maybe comes to your head, I guess, if you care enough about Prowler. This one's got the cat. This one's bad. And this one's also bad. Yeah. This one's not great. This one's pretty good. This one's bad. This one's not great, but it's got thematic and story purpose that makes it a little bit more interesting as a suit. This one's good, but I wish that he had the Miles mask. I wish he had his own black mask with the red webs. I would have preferred that to this. But of course, for where it is in the story, it logically can't be that. But even if there was maybe like a version of it that you unlocked later, because hell, there's 2 versions of this suit. There's 2 versions of this one. Why can't there be 2 versions of this suit? Maybe with the green jacket like he has in the movie. Or does he have a blue jacket in the movie? I don't remember now that I think about it. But anyways. Oh. Yeah. That is all the suits from Spider-Man Miles Morales. I think if we're going to average this out, this probably has a higher average in terms of quality than the previous game, than Spider-Man Remastered. Even though this obviously has fewer suits by a massive amount, because in total all the suits in Spider-Man Remastered, there's like 40 suits in that game or something like that. This game only has like 20 or something like that, so there's not many as compared to the previous game. And they kept adding more suits even after this game came out, and this game only got 1 extra suit, so it's like, it feels like maybe there is obviously a bias there in terms of there's a lot more suits to pull from with Peter Parker. With Miles, there really isn't as many suits to pull from. And as a result of that, they had to come up with a lot of their own ideas, pull suits from covers, stuff like this, because I'm assuming some of these came from covers, because that's usually where a lot of suits come from. But that said, they had some questionable judgment in the previous game in terms of what suits they chose to pick. They picked very weird ones. They picked the obvious ones, plus random weird ones that no one really wanted. Like, I don't know who was really screaming out for like 7 different spider armors. But yeah. Mercifully, there's no spider armors in this, apart from the worst. Apart from the worst. Just bad. Just very bad. But yeah. So yeah, that's kind of everything. That's everything I kind of feel like I want to say. This is definitely a shorter one of these. It's not as long as the previous episode. And I mean, I still have a lot to say about these suits. There's always a lot to say about Spider-Man costumes. Spider-Man's got a lot to talk about. Spider-Man has a lot of costumes, regardless of whether he's Peter Parker or Miles Morales. There's always lots of suits and lots to talk about because Spider-Man has so many iconic elements to his design that it just gets maddening up to a certain point. But yeah, I think with all that said, that's enough wrap up. That's like 5 minutes of wrap up, probably more. But yeah, so with all that said, that is us. So if you like the video, do whatever it is that you normally do, whether that be liking or not. I've got pretty bad marble mouth today, so if you would like to give the video a like, that would help my marble mouth. In theory, I don't think it would. It really wouldn't, probably. There's no statistical correlation to say that it would. But yeah, if you would like to subscribe, it is the same deal. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't, don't. And you've presumably seen a YouTube video before, so you don't need me to tell you where the subscribe button is. You already know where it is. If you're going to hit it, you're going to hit it. If you're not, you're not. If you would prefer to not subscribe, I can live with that. You've watched the video to this point already. That's enough for me. That's enough for me. Apparently not enough for me to not ask you to like it, but, you know, I have to do that for reasons. It helps, maybe. It could be a madness thing, who knows. But yeah. And if you choose to watch the next video, I will see you next time. My brain turned off for like a solid second there. I don't know, I lost like 3 seconds of time. But yeah, if you would like to watch, if you choose to watch the next video, I will see you next time. The marble mouth and the tiredness are kicking in. I'm very tired today. But yeah, if you would like to do that, then yes, I would be very happy. But yeah. So with all that said, that is us. I will say goodbye and I will leave you. If only so that I can, you know, return to my brain functioning in a more slow capacity and it not being a problem. So yeah. Bye bye.